Hi students, how are you? I am your Yatham sir. I am going to discuss about living world today. So this chapter generally in NEET point of view, weightage of this chapter is less. So expecting one question from this chapter, but the content of the chapter is very less, and the fundamentals present in this chapter that is very important for understanding of coming chapters. So we will start this chapter, that is the living world. So don't ignore this chapter. This chapter is easy, and at the same time all the fundamentals related to the biology that is present in this chapter, that is living world. So don't ignore this chapter. If you not understood this chapter, it is difficult to understood next chapters in the 11th biology. So first we will discuss about living world. So what is living world? So living world means so the living world, it contains vast variety of organisms. It exhibits diversity of organisms. And another thing that is, it is very important for place for living organisms. This is amazing place to dwell. So this is very important, amazing place to dwell. So our earth, that is the planet earth, it is very important place to dwell, means living of organisms. So the organisms able to survive in this location, that is earth. So it exhibits vast variety of diversity and various organisms located on the earth surface, and our earth, our planet earth, is amazing place to dwell. Okay, so then the living world, we can see vast diversity. So diversity is very big on this earth surface. Like diversity means a variety of organisms located on the earth surface, that is called diversity. So on this earth surface we can see the diversity. So what kind of diversity we can see on the earth surface? So the organisms having a variety of habits, habits and behavior. So the organisms having a different habitats, different behavior and different habits. Okay, so what is the meaning of habitat? So already you know the meaning of habits and behavior. So food habits or behavior of the organisms. Okay, so but what is the meaning of habitat? Where the organism located on the earth surface, that particular location is called habitat. Okay, so suppose aquatic habitat means the organism located in the water. Terrestrial habitat means the organism located on the terrestrial environment, means that is on the earth surface. So it indicates where the organism located on the earth surface, that is indicated by the habitat. So variety of habitats is there on the living world, that is extreme environmental conditions. So extreme environmental conditions is located on the earth surface. Okay, what kind of extreme environmental conditions located on the earth surface? So it includes cold mountains. So the cold mountains is one kind of extreme environmental conditions. So very few organisms only able to survive in the cold mountains. Okay, because the climate temperature is very less, even minus degrees also, like minus 30 and minus 40. So this is very difficult to survive other organisms on the cold mountains. So very less number of organisms is present in the cold mountains, but even like polar bear, like some organisms able to survive in the cold mountains. And the second one, that is salty lakes. So the salty lakes also, like then compared to the fresh water, the salt environment. So the salt water is not much suitable for the living organisms. So the salty lakes contains more salt than compared to the ocean water. So because of that, it is very difficult to survive living organisms in salty lakes. So this is also called extreme environmental condition, or it is also unfavorable environmental conditions for the living organisms. And another one is hot springs. So what is the meaning of hot springs? So hot springs means the water naturally boiling inside the soil, or the water naturally boiling inside the ocean. So that is called hot springs. So when the water naturally boiling inside the soil, or when the water naturally boiling inside the other areas like oceans, so the boiling water is not suitable for the survival of the organisms, but even though some bacteria and some microbes able to survive in the hot springs. And another one is deserts. So desert is also not suitable for the survival of living organisms. So this kind of environment is called extreme environmental condition. Extreme environmental condition, that is the deserts, hot deserts. So the hot deserts, the temperature is high and water availability is very less in the hot deserts. Like some camel like animals and opensia like plants able to survive in the hot deserts. Like that, generally the extreme environmental conditions not much suitable for the living organisms, but some living organisms able to survive in this extreme environmental conditions. Okay. So then, if you see our living world, it contains our glimpse. So glimpse means that is very small things in our experience. So after wake up, we can observe some things in our everyday experience. So what we can observe? So every glimpse, like horse galloping. Okay, so what is the speciality of the horse galloping? Generally, then compared to the other normal animals, the horse galloping having a special running style. So all the 4 feet present in the air during the running of horse. So that is the speciality. So if you see the other animals, 2 feet present on the ground and 2 feet present in the air. But horse, they will keep all the 4 legs in the air during their running. And the second one, birds chirping. So birds chirping means the style of the sound produced by the birds, that is called birds chirping. And another one is honeybee dancing. Honeybee dance. So the honeybee dance, it is also one special type of the dance. So the honeybee dance, it is present in 8 shape. So why the honeybees it showing 8 shape dance? So the honeybee dance is present in 8 shape. So suppose a honeybee is moving in dumbbell direction, then what happens? It is an indication for the other honeybees for the food source. Suppose food is located in this area. So the honeybee, it will show dumbbell shaped dance or 8 shaped dance in this area. From other honeybees from the distance locations, they can find this location very easily with the help of this dumbbell shaped dance or 8 shaped dance. So the 8 shaped dance or dumbbell shaped dance, it is a signal or communication to the other honeybees for finding their food source. Okay, so that is honeybee dance. And another one is that is shark predating. So the shark fishes, they showing special kind of predation. Okay, otherwise, and another one that is birds blooming. That is flowers blooming. Okay, so the flowers blooming, it is an example. So like when the flower will bloom, we don't know. Okay, like when you will wake up during that time, the flowers present in the blooming condition. Okay, so suppose some flowers they may bloom in the night time and some flowers they will bloom in the daytime. So this is the some amazing and very interesting experiences. Okay, so everyone knows these experiences. So these experiences, like the behavior of the animals, like suppose see horse galloping is one special kind of behavior, bird chirping is one special kind of the behavior, then honeybee dance or shark predating and flowers blooming. This is the different behaviors. So different behaviors is present in different animals in the living world. Okay, so now we will discuss about interactions between the organisms. So what kind of interactions is present? So before going to the discussing interactions between the organisms, we need to discuss two subtopics, that is two fundamentals in the biology, that is the basic fundamentals. One is called population and another one is called community. So if you understood population and community, then you can understand interactions between the organisms. So first we will discuss about populations. So population. So this is very important concept. So what is the meaning of population? So generally we will use the term for human population, like that group of single species, group of single species of organisms, group of single species of organisms is called populations. Group of single species of organisms, that is called populations. And another example I will give, that is communities. The second example, that is communities. So what is the meaning of community? So the community, it includes combination of populations, combination of populations, that is called community. Okay, now students see here, so all the human populations on the earth surface, they related to the one population. So all the human beings on the earth surface related to the human population. All the tigers on the earth surface related to the tiger population. All the lions in the earth surface, that is the example for the lion population. So I think according to these examples you can understand what is the populations. Now we will discuss about communities. So combination of populations is called communities. Okay, so that is communities definition. So example for the communities, that is forest community. So one example I given for communities, that is called forest community. So forest community means forest contains so many kinds of populations, so many plant populations, so many animal populations, so many birds populations present in the forest. So forest is an example for the community. So now different interactions is present in these areas. Different interactions that is present in populations and also in the communities. So what kind of interactions is there? So the one type of the interaction, that is called predation. So predation means one organism depend on the other organism for their food source, that is called predation. Example, the rabbit is depend on the grass. So rabbit is a predator and grass is a prey. Prey means food. Like tiger is a predator for deer. Okay, so like that, which organism is a food source for the other organism, that is called prey, and which organism is which organism depend on the other organism, that is called predator. Okay, so predation example I will give, grass and rabbit relationship. So this is an example for the predation. Or I will give another example also about the predation. Grass and rabbit is one example, and another one is tiger and deer. Okay, so tiger and deer, that is another example. Okay, so this is one type of the interaction. And cooperation. So another interaction present in the population or in the communities, that is called cooperation. What is the meaning of the cooperation? So the cooperation means both organisms mutually beneficial to each other, that is called cooperation. Okay, like that, suppose E. coli, I will give one example. E. coli bacteria, E. coli bacteria in human stomach. Okay, E. coli bacteria in the human stomach, it is an example for the cooperation. So there is a cooperation between the E. coli bacteria and human stomach. Like human stomach means that is in the human intestine. That more clearly I will give here, that another term, human large intestine. So human large intestine is an example for the that is cooperation. Like E. coli bacteria, it will provide vitamin B12 to the human large intestine. So human large intestine, it will provide food source and water source and shelter to the E. coli bacteria. So this kind of relation is called cooperation. And another one is conflict. So conflict means the competition between the organisms, that is called conflict, competition between the organisms. And another one, that is nursing. So nursing means that is protection or care. So one organism will care about other organism, that is called nursing. So this is the different kinds of relations. It may be present between the populations or it may be present between the communities. So nursing means the mother and child relationship. So the mother will take care about the child, that is called nursing. So okay, so nursing means it will take care about other organism and it is also provide nutrition to the other organism. Care or provide nutrition to the other organism, that is called nursing. So this is different kinds of interactions present either maybe in the populations or in the communities. So remember this definitions about the populations and definitions about the communities. So these two definitions is very important in NEET point of view. And another one is, remember this 4 type of the interactions between the organisms, either in the communities or in the population. So the list, suppose they may chance to give which of the following is interactions between the organisms or which of the following is not an interactions between the organisms. Like that they may chance to create the questions in the final NEET. So carefully remember this 4 types of the interactions in the organisms. So then we will discuss about, so the interactions is present in the organism level or above the organism level. So what is the basic unit of this interactions? Organism. So organism is a basic unit for this kind of interactions. These 4 kind of interactions occur between the organisms. But not only organism, some kind of interactions is present at cellular levels also. That kind of the interactions is called molecular or micro interactions. Micro interactions. So what is the meaning of micro interactions? So micro interactions means interactions at the cellular level is called micro interactions. Interactions at the cellular level. So interactions at the cellular level, that is called micro interactions. Interactions at the cellular levels is called micro interactions. So can you give some examples about this micro interactions, students? So I will give examples here. Interactions inside the cell. So the interactions may be present inside the cell. This is one example. And the second example, the interactions may be present around the cell. Okay, the interactions may be present around the cell. And another one, that is the interactions may be present among the cells. Okay, so these three type of interactions is called micro interactions. So what is the benefit of this micro interactions? So these 3 kinds of interactions. So some interactions present inside the cell, means some molecules or biomolecules is interacted to each other inside the cell, and in some cases the interaction between the cell and cell surrounding environment of the cell, that is called around the cell. Okay, so like the interaction between the cell and the surrounding fluid of the cell, that is called around the cell, and another one is called among the cell. Among the cell means the interactions present between the cells, that is called among the cells. Okay, so the interactions it will reveal astonishing facts about life. Okay, so the interactions they will reveal the astonishing facts about the life. So astonishing facts means very interesting facts of the life that is revealed by these three types of the interactions. So interactions present inside the cell, that is biomolecules, and the second one is interaction between the cell and the surrounding environment of the cell, means cell and blood or cell and lymph, and among the cells the interactions between the cells. So it will reveal astonishing facts about the life. This is about micro interactions. Okay, so then we will discuss about aspects of the life. So there are two types of the aspects is there. So many aspects is there about the life. What is the meaning of aspect? So suppose if I ask what is the life, you may give one type of the definition. If I ask your friend, they have a different aspect. If I ask one science student, so they will give some type of the aspect or definition about the meaning about the life. If I ask one history student, they will give one type of the definition. So if I ask a psychology student or psychology professor, they will give one type of aspect or one type of explanation about the life. So different aspects is there about the life, but most of the aspects are not correct, and scientifically we cannot understand and we cannot define that kind of the aspects. But some aspects we can define and we can understand. So in the two aspects is there, one is called technical aspect of the life and another one is called philosophical aspect of the life. And another one philosophical aspect. So what is the difference between technical aspect and philosophical aspect? So philosophical aspect means the philosophical aspect will discuss about the life. So what kind of discussion is there present in the philosophy? That is, what is the purpose of the life? What is the purpose? What is the purpose of life? So if discussion is going on this direction, that is what is the purpose of life? Like so many things is there in that. So that is called philosophical aspect of the life. And another one is called technical aspect. So technical aspect, it explains two things. Power of reproduction of organisms. Power of reproduction of organisms. So this is one aspect, and another aspect, that is sustaining organisms on earth surface. Sustaining organisms on the earth surface. So this is the one aspect. So there are two types of the aspects. One is called that is technical and another one is philosophical. So now we are biologists or biology subject related persons. So because of that we will not concentrate on this philosophical aspect. Okay, we will not concentrate on philosophical aspect because the biologists, they will focus on technical aspect. Okay, so technical aspect of the life. So now we will discuss about technical aspect of the life. So remember, so the technical aspect, the 2 points is very important in NEET point of view. So highlight these points in your textbook or in the notes. Okay, So technical aspect of the life. So now we will discuss more about technical aspect of the life. So what is the technical aspect of the life we will discuss now. So technical aspect discussing about interactions present inside the cell. So suppose, see here, so technical aspects. So the technical aspects, it will give more information about interactions. So molecular interactions present inside the cell. Molecular interactions inside the cell. Molecular interactions inside the cell in specific aspect, a specific pattern. So so molecular interactions inside the cell in specific patterns, it will reveal like, so molecular interactions in specific pattern inside the life, inside the cell. So it leads to the formation of cell. Okay, so that is complex interactions. So the molecular interactions is not a simple interactions. These interactions are complex interactions. So the complex interactions of molecules present inside the cell in specific patterns, and it leads to the formation of the cell. What is the cell? This is the basic unit of the life. The cell is the basic unit of life. So cell is the basic unit of the life, and the cell is the basic unit, and it explains about it is important for all the metabolic reactions. So what kind of reactions present inside the cell? Can you imagine? So some chemical reactions present inside the cell. Chemical reactions present inside the cell. So inside the cell some chemical reactions is there. What is the another name of these chemical reactions? So the chemical reactions, that is called metabolic reactions. Metabolic reactions present inside the cell. So the chemical reactions present inside the cell, that kind of the chemical reactions we will say that is the metabolic reactions. So this is the metabolic reactions. Okay. So now what is the significance of these metabolic reactions? So is there any importance for these metabolic reactions? So the metabolic reactions, it will releases energy. The metabolic reactions responsible for releases energy. So the metabolic reactions, they will releases energy. So what is the significance of this energy? So what is the use of this energy? So this energy is important for some changes, some activities in the life. So what is that activities? So remember this list also. This list is also very important. So it includes growth. So energy is important for the growth of the organisms, and the energy is important for the reproduction of the organisms. And the energy is also important for responsiveness. The energy is also important for responsiveness of the organisms. So this is important for the growth, and this is important for the reproduction, and energy is important for responsiveness. And other kind of things is there. This energy is also important for development of the organisms. Development. Energy is important for development of organisms. And this energy is also important for other metabolic reactions. Again, metabolic reactions are chemical reactions inside the cell. So this is the significance. So carefully see here, technical aspect means molecular interactions or complex molecular interactions present inside the cell, okay, inside the cell in specific patterns, and it leads to the formation of the cell. The cell is the basic unit of the life. Why the cell is the basic unit of the life? Because the chemical reactions present inside this cell. What is the another name of that chemical reactions? The chemical reactions is also called metabolic reactions. So now this metabolic reactions releases energy. The chemical reactions are metabolic reactions present inside this cell. That metabolic reactions are chemical reactions that is responsible for the production of energy. So what is the significance of this energy? So this energy is important for the growth of the organism. This energy is important for the reproduction of the organism, and this energy is important for responsiveness. So what is the meaning of responsiveness? So suppose heavy rain is present in the outside. So to escape from the heavy rain, you may come to some shelter. Otherwise, heavy light intensity or sunlight is heavy in the afternoon time, you may move towards shady areas. So that is called responsiveness. Then another one is development. Development means that is after fertilization, the zygote is produced in the organisms. The zygote, it will develop into the embryo. Then furtherly, the embryo, it will develop into the fetus. The fetus, it will develop into the baby. So different developmental stages is present in the every organism life. Stages of the life, that is called development. And metabolic reactions means chemical reactions present inside the cell. For this all the activities, energy is required. Who will provide that energy? That energy is provided by the chemical reactions present inside the cell. Okay, that chemical reactions is also called metabolic reactions. Okay, so the metabolic reactions releases energy. That energy is important for growth, reproduction, responsiveness, development, and metabolic reactions. So remember these 5 things. So what is the significance of energy? That is the question. So they will give these options like growth, reproduction, responsiveness, like that. Otherwise, the energy is not important for, like that they will ask the question. So growth one option, reproduction one option, and responsiveness one option, and like responsiveness one option, and 4th option is all of the above. So all of the above is the option. So remember this all the 5 points related to the energy. So now the technicians, otherwise biologists or scientists, they are focused on the life. The technicians or biologists, they focused on life. So now tell me, what is the life? So the technicians, they differentiated living and non-living characters. The scientists, they differentiated living and non-living characters. At the same time, the technicians, they proposed some universally accepted, they created some universally accepted definitions about the life, and universally accepted principles and procedures also they prepared for the understanding of life. So now we will discuss about that. Okay, so now in this class, what is life? What is life? So what is the meaning of life? So if I ask this question, otherwise if you ask this question to the any other person, they will give different opinions. So based on some features, we can say life is present inside the organism, or so some characters we can understand from the outside, and some characters we can understand from the inside. So external characters of the life, and another one that is internal characters of the life. So there are 2 types of the characters. So some characters of the life that is called external characters, and some characters of the life that is called internal characters. Okay, so what is the external characters of the life? So the external characters of the life, it includes reproduction. So reproduction is the one type of the external characters of the life, and the another character that is growth. So growth is also an example for the one external character of the life. Okay, reproduction, growth. So if suppose some plant produces flowers, So if plant producing the flowers means what it indicates? Reproduction. So reproduction you able to observe from the outside or not? Yes, you can able to observe from the outside. And growth. So growth you able to observe from the outside or not? You can able to observe. Suppose if you take a plant. So suppose 1 month back the plant height may be 1 centimeter. Now maybe 10 centimeters. More means it indicating the growth. And another one is responsiveness. So responsiveness is also we can observe from the outside. Suppose if you keep the plant in the shady areas, the plant leaf it will become white because of lack of sunlight. Okay. So when you will keep plant inside the sunlight, again it will become green. Means the plant showing response towards the light intensity, otherwise sunlight. So this is called response. Okay, so this characters is present means we can say that is the living organism. And about other characters is also there. Generally this is a basic information. So deeply we will discuss one by one. Okay, so now internal characters. So what is the internal characters? Metabolism. Just now we discussed about this metabolism. Metabolism means chemical reactions present inside the organism. That chemical reactions is called metabolism. Okay, then the second point, that is self-replicating. Self-replicating. So the organism able to replicate itself, that is called self-replicating. Replicate means reproduce. Okay, so the organism it able to produce their molecules, or the organism able to reproduce itself. That is called self-replication. And another one is that is self-organization. So self-organizing. So this is the characters of the this is the internal characters of the living nature. So metabolism, so you able to observe metabolism, self-replication or self-organizing. So we cannot observe these characters from the outside. Because of that we classified these characters under the internal characters. But these characters we can observe from the outside. Because of that we kept these characters in the external characters of the life. So like what is the life? So this is not simple, like we cannot give answer within single sentence. So lot of discussion is required about this question. So now one by one we will discuss. So first we will discuss in this class, that is the growth. Okay. So this points is very important, students. So about NEET point of view. So in NCERT textbook or in the standard modules also, they not discriminated this external and internal characters. If you make like this tabular form, easily you can remember what is the internal characters, and easily you can remember what is the external characters also. Okay, so try to keep this in mind. Otherwise write this table in your notes. So if you make like a table means easily you can remember this. So now in this question, so now I am trying to give answer about this question. So first we will discuss about growth. So what is the characters of the growth? So growth is present in the living organisms, and growth is present in non-living objects also. So because of that, see the first point of the growth. So this is fundamental character of all living organisms. Okay, growth is a fundamental character for all the living organisms. So that is the first point for the growth. Okay, so growth in living organisms. So first I have to write subheading here, that is growth in living organisms. So now I am discussing about growth in living organisms. So next I will discuss about growth in non-living objects. So now growth is a fundamental characteristic for all the living organisms. That is the first point. So it is intrinsic in living organisms. So growth is intrinsic in living organisms. What is the meaning of intrinsic? So the growth is from the inside, that is called intrinsic. So if growth is from the inside, we will say that is the intrinsic. Growth is from the outside, that is called extrinsic. So the growth is not increased in our body because of accumulation of materials on the surface. The growth is coming from the inside the body, that is called intrinsic growth. So that is the property of living organisms. And another point, that is intrinsic growth is present in the living organisms. And another one is, so the growth is present in which kind of organisms? So growth is present in all cellular organisms. So this is another important property, present in intrinsic growth, present in all cellular organisms. So all the cellular organisms, they will show the growth, that is the intrinsic growth. Okay. And growth having two properties. One is increase in mass, means size of the organism, and another one is increase in number. Increase in number. So increase in mass and increase in number, that is the twin characteristics of the growth. So two characters is there for the growth. One is called increase in mass or size, and another one is increase in number. So that is the two characters of the growth. So increase in mass, that is the one character of the growth, and increase in size, that is the another, increase in mass or size, that is the one character of the growth, and another one, that is increase in number, that is the another character of the growth. So two characters is there for the growth. And another important thing, that is, so the growth patterns is different in different organisms. Growth patterns, so this is very, very important, patterns and duration. Growth pattern and duration is different in different organisms. So the pattern of growth and the pattern of the duration of the growth and patterns of the growth is different in different organisms. So all the organisms, they will not show same type of the patterns and same type of the duration in their growth. So suppose I will give one example, plants and animals. So see here in this example, so plants having so plants having what kind of the growth? Limited growth or unlimited growth? Yes, unlimited growth, continuous growth. The plant able to grow up to the death, that is called plants having unlimited growth. Okay, so then we will discuss about another thing, that is growth in animals. Okay, so the animals having limited growth. What is the meaning of limited? So the plants having unlimited growth. Unlimited growth means the plant able to grow throughout their life till death. But animals having limited growth. Limited growth means the animal able to grow up to some time, then they will stop their growth. That is called limited growth. So the growth patterns and duration of growth, that is different in different organisms. Example, I given two examples. One is plants and another one is animals. Okay. So now we will discuss about growth in unicellular organisms. So see here, so growth in living organisms, that topic we are discussing now. Okay, so then in this, growth is a fundamental character of all the living organisms. There is no exemptions. Growth is present in all the living organisms. Intrinsic. So what is the nature of the growth in living organisms? Intrinsic in living organisms means growth is from the inside, and growth is present in which organisms? Present in all cellular organisms. That may be unicellular organism, that may be multicellular organism. So increase in mass means increase in size. So the size of the cell. Suppose initially cell size is this much. Again the cell size, it will become this much. So we will say that is the growth. So increase in mass or increase in number also. One cell it will become two cells, that is also we will say the growth. Otherwise small cell it will become the large cell, that is also we will say the growth. So growth patterns and duration is different in different organisms. Plants having a unlimited growth and animals having a limited growth. So that is the differences between the, so that is the some fundamental points related to the growth in living organisms. So now we will discuss about growth in unicellular organisms. So what kind of growth is present in the unicellular organisms? Okay, so now we will discuss about growth in unicellular organisms. Growth in unicellular organisms. So what kind of growth is present in unicellular organisms? So like this is the single cell, it will become 2 cells. The 2 cells again, it will become 4 cells. So the cell number is increased. So this is called growth. So only we will say this is the growth, or it may be reproduction also. Yes. So I will give one point here. Growth and another one is reproduction. Growth and reproduction both are inclusive means similar. Similar things are inclusive things in unicellular organisms. So in unicellular organisms, growth and reproduction both are inclusive events. Inclusive events. So we cannot differentiate growth and reproduction in unicellular organisms. Now tell me, one cell it will become 2 cells. 2 cells it will become 4 cells. Then now tell me, it is called growth or reproduction. So we can say if the number is increased, it is an example for the growth. At the same time, if the cell number is increased, this is also called reproduction, because the 2 cells is reproduced from the first cell. So the 4 cells is reproduced from these 2 cells. So because of that, this diagram is an example for growth. At the same time, this diagram is an example for reproduction also. So this is about growth in the unicellular organisms. Okay, so this point is very, very important. I will highlight the point. So highlight this point in textbook also, or in notes. Keep this point in the notes. That is, growth and reproduction both are inclusive events in the living organisms. Okay, so suppose if you want to observe growth of unicellular organisms, so how you able to observe? So take one small glass plate. So this is some small glass plate. So technically we will say this glass plate is called Petri dish. Okay, so this glass plate is called Petri dish. So inside the Petri dish, keep some nutrient materials inside the Petri dish. So this is the nutrient material. So what is the meaning of nutrient material? That is called food material to the microorganisms. That is called nutrient media. So technically we will say nutrient media. So now this red color material is there. This is called nutrient media. So this is nutrient media. So inside the nutrient media, keep one bacteria. So you may kept one bacteria inside this nutrient media. So this is the single bacteria. So keep this Petri dish and nutrient media with bacteria for about 1 hour. So check after 1 hour this Petri dish. So after 1 hour, if you observe this Petri dish, so this Petri dish, it contains Okay, so the petri dish, it contains the nutrient media. So the nutrient media of the petri dish, suppose it contains only one bacteria. So the one bacteria, it may become two bacteria. Two bacteria, it will become four bacteria. Like that, the number of the bacteria may be increased in this petri dish. So initially, how many bacteria is there? So here only one bacteria is present. But finally, how many bacteria is there here? So totally 4 bacteria present in these locations. Okay. So how you able to observe that bacteria? Bacteria you able to observe with our naked eye. You cannot observe bacteria with our naked eye. So microscope is required. So we can count the number of bacteria with microscope. So if you observe these petri dishes under the microscope, then you can able to count the number of bacteria. We can count the number of bacteria with petri dish. Okay, so we can count the number of bacteria with the help of the, written wrong here, with the help of microscope. So generally we will use a compound microscope for this. So the microscope is very important for counting number of bacteria. So because bacteria we cannot observe with our naked eye, so because of that we need to utilize microscope for the counting number of bacteria. So now this is about growth in unicellular organisms. So now we will see the growth in multicellular organisms. So the multicellular organism, it will increase their size by increasing the number or by increasing the mass of the cells also. By two ways the multicellular organisms, they will increase the growth. So now I will discuss about growth in multicellular organisms. Growth in multicellular organisms. So suppose I will give with example zygote. So after fertilization, male and female gametes both are fused together and it leads to the formation of the zygote. So how many cells is present in the zygote? One cell is present in the zygote. So the single celled zygote, it become around 16 cells stays, that is called embryo. Okay, so it will become embryo. So that embryo may contains 16 or more cells. So 16 or more cells present in the embryo. So the embryo, it will become infant. So the infant, it will become, the embryo, it will become fetus. So the fetus, it will become baby. So like that, what happens? The number of cells is increased. So our life began with single cell, that is called zygote. The single cell, it will become multicellular structure, that is called embryo. The multicellular structure furtherly increased their number, it will become the fetus. The fetus furtherly increased their number of cells, then it will become baby. Then baby, it will become, the baby increases number in their body, then it will become child. Okay, then child increases number of cells in their body, it will become adult. So in every stage the number of cells is increased, at the same time size of the cells also increased. Suppose if you see, if you observe baby cell under the microscope, the cell size is very small. But if you observe size of the cell, okay, if you observe the size of the suppose adult cell, so baby cell, suppose I will give represent here. So this is the baby cell. So baby cell size is this much. Okay, this is the baby cell. So suppose if you see adult cell, adult bone cell or any brain cell, the adult cell size is this much. So which cell is bigger in size, students? Baby cell is bigger in size or adult cell is bigger in size? Yes, adult cell is bigger in size. What it indicates? So The cell size is increased during the growth, at the same time the cell number also increased during the growth. So this is about growth in multicellular organisms. And another important point also I will give here. Now what point I am going to give, that is also very important point in NEET exam. So that is growth and reproduction. Growth and reproduction both are mutually exclusive events, mutually exclusive events in multicellular or higher organisms. Higher organisms or multicellular organisms. So this statement is very important. Multicellular organism. So in multicellular organism, growth is different and reproduction is different. So growth and reproduction both are mutually exclusive. What is the meaning of this exclusive? So exclusive means different events. So growth is different and reproduction is different. So both are different events in higher organisms, or both are different events in the multicellular organisms. So that is the difference between the unicellular organisms growth and multicellular organisms growth. What statement we discussed in unicellular organisms? Growth and reproduction both are inclusive events in unicellular organisms. Both are same. But in multicellular organisms, growth is different and reproduction is different. Both are mutually exclusive events in higher organisms or multicellular organisms. So now we will discuss about. So now ultimately I will give 2 points about the growth in living organisms. So two important properties you have to remember. So one is growth is a fundamental characteristic of all the living organisms, and at the same time intrinsic growth. So growth from the inside, that is the property of the living organisms. So intrinsic growth only, that is the property of the living organisms. So now we will discuss about differences between the growth in living things and non-living things. So growth in living things and non-living, growth in living organisms and non-living things. So growth in living things. Okay, and another one is growth in non-living objects. Okay, so growth in living things, one point, and another point, that is growth in living things, growth in non-living objects. Okay, so what is the growth in living things? So growth in living things, so now this is growth in living things. So growth in living things, this is intrinsic growth. So what is the meaning of intrinsic? The growth is from the inside, that is called intrinsic growth. Growth is from the inside. So non-living objects also having a growth, but this growth is from the outside, that is called extrinsic. The growth is extrinsic, means the growth is from the outside of the organism. So that is the key difference between the living things or living organisms growth and non-living things or non-living objects growth. And another important point, that is okay, so now, so examples is there, that is intrinsic growth is present in the living organisms and extrinsic growth is present in the non-living objects. Okay, and growth is irreversible in living organisms. Suppose you may be baby, then child, then adult. So your height may reach up to the 6 feet. So again it may decrease from 6 feet to the 1 feet. It is impossible. Means the growth is not reversible. Okay. So once the organism size is increased, means it never decrease. So that is called irreversible property of the growth. And the second point, that is, so non-living objects also having a growth, but it is reversible. The non-living objects having a growth, that is the reversible growth. And another difference between the living things and non-living things, so that is, example I will give about the living things. So all example for living things, growth in the living things. Example, all cellular organisms. All cellular organisms is an example for the growth. Okay. So then another example for non-living things. Example 1 I will give, that is snow mountain. So snow mountain is an example for extrinsic growth. Okay. So snow mountain. So the snow mountain size, it will increase during the summer time. So during the summer time the Himalaya size will decrease. During the winter time the Himalaya size, it will increase. During the rainy season the Himalaya size will increase. Means the snow mountain is an example for growth in the non-living objects. So the growth is from the outside. If rain is there on the Himalayas, it will become snow. The size of the mountain will increase. And another one is, it is reversible. Reversible means during the summer season the size will decrease, during the winter season the size will increase. So example number 2 I will give, that is crystals. Okay. Suppose calcium carbonate crystals that is created on the mountains. So the crystals increased their size because of accumulation of materials on their surface. So more calcium carbonate is accumulated on the surface, the mountain it will become, or the crystal it will become big crystal. So the crystal size it will increase because of accumulation of materials on their surface. Example, calcium carbonate crystals or CaCO3 crystals. Example, I will write in bracket CaCO3 crystals. So this is an example for the growth. And example number 3, that is example number 1, example number 2, number 3, sand dunes. Sand dunes is also as an example for growth. So how this sand dunes is created? So the soil is carried by the water during the floods. Example, that is rivers, they will carry the soil from one place to the another place from their native bed. Suppose this is the river. So during the river flow, along with the river, the soil is also carried by the river. So the soil, it may be accumulated in some areas. It will become sand dunes. Okay. The sand dunes is created because of accumulation of materials on their surface. Okay. So the sand dunes it will create. So again, suppose in one season the sand dune may be created, but after few years again the sand dunes created in this area, the sand is present in the sand dunes, that is dissolved in the rainy water. Again the sand dune size it may decrease. Okay. So the sand dunes is created because of bringing soil by the rivers from their native bed. So again the soil size may be decreased due to the heavy rains. So during the heavy rain, the soil is dissolved in the water, and again the soil dunes, this sand dune size, it may chance to decrease. So because see, these two properties are key properties for the non-living objects, and these two properties is the key properties for the living objects. So now tell me students, the dead organism, the dead body able to grow or not? Dead body able to grow? It is possible to grow? Cannot grow. So the dead body it will not grow. Okay. So this is one important point. Okay. So but here like that may be living or dead. So any dead means always it is present in dead only, non-living object means dead. So in dead condition also it able to show the growth. So that is the another difference. So dead condition can show the growth. So generally dead organism it will not show the growth, but non-living objects they can show the growth in dead condition, can show growth in dead condition. So students, if you study this growth in tabular form, like differences between the living objects and living things and non-living things, you can easily understood this concept about the growth. So now tell me, finally I will give the conclusion about the growth. So growth is a fundamental character of all living organisms, but it is not a defining property of all living organisms. Means I will give two statements. So don't confuse between the two statements. So in NEET examination, you may chance to confuse about these two statements. So one statement is growth, fundamental character. Growth is a fundamental character for all living organisms. So already you know this point. But the growth is not a defining property. The growth is not a defining property of living organisms. The growth is not a defining property of living organisms. So growth is a fundamental character for all living organisms. At the same time, growth is not a defining property of living organisms. So growth is not a defining property of living organisms. Why? I will give question also why. Because growth means only extrinsic growth or intrinsic growth. Growth means growth equivalent to extrinsic plus intrinsic growth. So the meaning of the growth means not only intrinsic growth. Okay, that is extrinsic and intrinsic growth. Which one is living? Extrinsic growth, it is not non-living. So another one, that is intrinsic growth, this is living. So because of that we will not consider growth is not a defining property of living organisms, but it is a fundamental character of all living organisms. Okay, but intrinsic growth is a defining property of living organisms. Intrinsic growth is a defining property. Intrinsic growth is a defining property of living organisms. Intrinsic growth is a defining property for living organisms. So this is the differences between the this is the some clarity about the statements related to the living things and non-living things. So means it is a fundamental character for all the living organisms, but intrinsic growth is a defining property of living organisms. Growth is not a defining property of living organisms. Why? Means growth means intrinsic growth and extrinsic growth, but extrinsic growth is present in non-living things and intrinsic growth is present in the living things. Because of that, growth is not considered as a defining property of living organisms, but the intrinsic growth we can consider as a defining property of living organisms. So this is about growth, students. So in next class I will explain about reproduction, then metabolism and consciousness. So if you study the concepts in this like in analytical way and in tabular forms, easily you can remember the concepts and there is no confusion about the concepts and you can able to attempt any type of the question. And another thing, you will not you can avoid negative marks. So most of the students, they are suffering from negative marks. Why this negative marks is coming means because of lack of clarity about the concept. So if you have a good clarity and if you have a good analysis about the concept, easily you can answer any type of the questions related to NEET. Okay, so avoid the negative mark and try to get more clarity about the concepts and analyze and try to make more number of tables. And if you analyze and compare, if you study concepts in comparative way, easily you can understand the concepts. Okay, so when you have doubts, refer these videos. So thank you very much watching my videos, and if you like these videos, please share these videos to your friends also. All the best. We will meet in next video with other topics, that is reproduction, metabolism and consciousness. So all the best. We will meet in the next video. Thank you very much.